All right, get ready. Because today we're going deep into a chapter of the Bible that's full of drama, 2 Samuel chapter 3.
Yeah, it really does read like a political thriller, doesn't it?
It really does. Power struggles, shifting alliances, some really difficult choices.
We're talking ancient history here, but believe me, the themes in this chapter are as relevant as ever.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So to set the scene, we're right in the middle of this fight for power between the house of Saul, who was king before, and David, who's clearly gaining influence.
Right, you've got David establishing himself in Hebron, while Saul's son, Ishbosheth, is trying to hold on to the rest of Israel.
But things aren't exactly going his way.
No, not at all. And a lot of that has to do with his, shall we say, complicated relationship with Abner.
Abner being Saul's former top general.
Exactly. And this relationship goes downhill pretty fast.
It does.
Does.
And it all starts with Abner taking Saul's concubine, Rizpah.
Which back then was a very bold move.
Oh yeah, in those days, taking a king's concubine, that was a direct challenge to his authority.
It was a statement, and Ishbosheth accuses Abner of basically trying to take the throne.
And Abner is furious.
I mean, wouldn't you be? He feels completely betrayed, and he decides to switch sides.
He goes straight to David.
With an offer to bring all of Israel under David's rule. Talk about a power move.
It's a huge turning point in the story.
Yeah.
But David doesn't just say yes immediately.
No, he's a smart leader, he thinks strategically.
He wants something in return,
His wife, Michal.
who'd been given to another man by her father, Saul.
It's an interesting demand, isn't it?
It really is. What do you think was going on there? Was it a power play by David, a matter of personal longing, or maybe a little of both?
It's hard to say for sure. It was certainly a strategic move, that's for sure. But it also suggests that David is driven by something more than just ambition.
He wants justice, he wants his family back together, and he's willing to use this as leverage.
And Abner, always the skilled negotiator, he manages to make it happen. He brings Michal back to David.
Paving the way for this new alliance.
Exactly. So now you've got this delegation from Abner arriving in Hebron. They're making a formal agreement with David. There's a big feast.
It seems like everything is falling into place for a peaceful transition of power.
You'd think so, wouldn't you? But this is 250 Samuel we're talking about.
And things are never that simple.
Never.
This is where Joab enters the story. And let's just say he brings a whole lot of tension with him.
To put it mildly, Joab, David's commander, a fierce and loyal warrior, but he also has a personal score to settle with Abner.
Because Abner killed his brother, Asahel, in a previous battle. So when Joab returns from a military campaign and finds Abner with David, well, he's not happy about it.
Not happy is an understatement. He sees this as the ultimate betrayal.
And he decides to take matters into his own hands.
He lures Abner away from the celebration and murders him in cold blood.
It's a shocking turn of events. I mean, you can understand Joab's anger, his need for revenge,
Of course.
but his actions completely destroy David's plans for a smooth unification of Israel.
They do. It's like watching this carefully built peace treaty go up in flames.
I mean, just imagine what must have been going through David's mind when he heard the news.
I bet he was thinking about all the work he'd put in trying to bring everyone together.
Yeah, all those plans just shattered in an instant.
It says in the text that David was devastated when he found out.
Oh, I can only imagine he realizes just how much Joab messed things up.
Totally, not just by losing Abner as a valuable ally, but also because this whole thing could reignite the war between their sides.
This is where you really see what kind of leader David is.
It's a real test, right? How do you respond to this kind of crisis?
Maintain your authority and keep the kingdom from falling apart all at the same time.
Well, David does something pretty remarkable.
What's that?
He publicly mourns Abner's death
Wow.
and condemns Joab's actions. He makes it very clear that he does not approve.
That's a smart move politically.
It is. He distances himself from the violence, shows the people that he's a leader who values justice and order, not revenge.
So it's like he's saying, look, I'm not going to let personal vendettas get in the way of peace.
Exactly. It's a powerful message, especially considering that the victim, well, he killed David's brother.
Right. Talk about taking the high road.
It shows a lot of restraint and strategic thinking on David's part.
He could have easily given in to anger.
He could have, but instead he chooses reconciliation and peace.
He knew a real leader has to rise above personal feelings.
And prioritize what's best for everyone.
So even in the midst of all this drama and bloodshed, we see some real leadership lessons emerging.
Oh, definitely.
Sometimes the toughest decisions are the ones that go against our gut feelings.
That's so true.
And that's why this ancient story still speaks to us today.
We've all faced situations where we have to choose between acting on our emotions or taking a step back and thinking things through.
How many conflicts have we seen escalate because someone lost their temper?
Too many, probably.
Whether it's in our families, at work, or even in politics, those strong emotions can lead to some pretty bad outcomes.
It's easy to get caught up in the heat of the moment, but like David shows us, true leadership means having a cool head.
And being willing to make tough choices even when they're not popular.
Absolutely.
So we've talked about the dangers of acting impulsively like Joab did,
Right?
but we also see the power of forgiveness in this chapter.
In Abner's decision to join David,
It makes you wonder if things could have gone differently if they'd chosen a different path.
if they could have avoided this whole tragedy somehow.
Like, what if Ishbosheth had talked to Abner directly instead of making those public accusations?
Or what if Abner had tried to work things out instead of switching sides immediately?
And what if Joab had let go of his anger and seen the bigger picture?
It's easy to look back and imagine all the what-ifs.
It's a powerful reminder that even in the most difficult situations, we always have a choice.
And those choices, no matter how small they seem, can change the course of history.
It's a sobering thought, but it also gives us hope
It does.
because it means we have the power to shape our own destinies.
And make a positive impact on the world, even when things are tough.
Now let's talk about another aspect of David's leadership, his patience.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
He doesn't just grab for power when the opportunity presents itself.
Nope.
He waits for the right moment.
He's playing the long game.
He's thinking strategically, and that takes a lot of discipline, to hold back when you have that much power right there in front of you.
Absolutely. David understands that real change, lasting change, it doesn't happen overnight.
Right. It takes time.
Patience, careful planning, building those alliances, and then waiting for the right moment.
That's what makes him such an effective leader.
Exactly. And it's a valuable lesson for all of us, especially these days when everything moves so fast.
It's all about instant gratification now. Hustle, grind, get it done yesterday.
We're constantly being told to do more, faster.
But David's example shows us that sometimes the smartest thing you can do is slow down
Take a step back, look at the whole picture.
instead of just charging ahead.
Because rushing into things, well, that often leads to mistakes.
And consequences you could have avoided if you had just waited.
It's like that saying, measure twice, cut once.
It's true for so many things in life.
Starting a business, relationships, big decisions, you name it.
Taking the time to really think things through can make all the difference.
Patience isn't about being passive, it's about being strategic
It's about choosing the right time to act so you can have the biggest impact.
and achieve those long-term goals.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into 2 Samuel chapter 3, I think what really stands out to me is how complex leadership is.
It really is.
It's not just about being strong and decisive.
There's so much more to it than that.
It's also about knowing when to forgive, when to reconcile, when to be patient.
David's journey in this chapter is full of these timeless lessons.
Lessons that are still relevant to us today.
Absolutely.
We see how things can fall apart when people let their emotions take over
Like Joab.
and the consequences that follow.
Right. But we also see the power of choosing a different path, even when you've suffered a great loss.
Like Abner did.
And through it all, we have David, the patient strategist, dealing with the challenges of power and ambition. It makes you think about the choices we make every day and how they shape the world around us.
So we've got one last question for you.
Okay, shoot.
If you were in the shoes of these biblical figures, facing those same pressures, how would you have acted?
That's a tough one.
It really is. It's something to think about.
Because history isn't just made up of big events.
It's also the result of all the little choices people make every day.
Well, that's all the time we have for today.
Thanks for joining us on this journey through 2 Samuel chapter 3.
It's been a fascinating discussion.
We hope you learned something new and maybe even challenged yourself to think a little differently.
We'll see you next time.
Until then, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep searching for those timeless truths that connect us all.